Greetings, YouTube. The doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And today I want to talk about a very serious subject within our precious game of Dungeons and Dragons, and for many other tabletop role-playing games for that matter. And that issue is the issue with resurrection, raised dead, whatever you want to call it, bringing PCs back to life. I have to say, I hate and despise all of this. I have never liked it, and I have to say also that 5th edition, and most likely D&D 2024, has made raising characters back to life one of the easiest things to do, and it takes away that absolute element of surprise and danger and hesitation and fear from the game itself. And that is something that came into the game with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in the 70s, and it was integral in 2nd edition in the 80s and early 90s. And when 3rd edition came around, they made it a little bit easier to bring characters back to life without any consequences. And then with 4th edition, we all had our problems with 4th edition. I actually am a fan of 4th edition. And then, of course, 5th edition brought it in. Now, let's take a look. We have 4 options, or players have 4 options in 5th edition, and I am going to guess that these options, by the way, these are the official options right now, because the D&D 2024 book is out to some people. It is not out to the public in general. So these are our options right now. As of sometime in September when the book comes out, then these may change. Although I don't think they're going to be changing that much. But these are the options that we have right now. We have Revivify, which is your 3rd level option, and we've rated all these spells and gone over all these spells, but it brings a creature back to life that's died within the last minute. Then we have Raise Dead, which will bring a creature back to life that's been dead no longer than 10 days. We've got Resurrection, which will bring a creature back that has been dead for no more than a century. And we've got True Resurrection, which will bring a creature back that's been dead for no longer than 200 years. So we get a longer duration for each one of these. Each one of these spells is a little bit different than the other one, but all 4 of them have something in common. And that something it cuts that level of danger off from the player characters. And the thing that is in here is this right here. It costs money to use these. It costs something that is worth something to the players. Now, it's diamonds, typically, but for the most part, your player characters will be seeking these things out because they want to have them so that they can bring everybody back to life. And the danger of death basically is wiped clean in 5th edition. And that, to me, is somewhat of a problem. Lots of different characters can use these spells. This one is an action, and it costs 300 gold. And there really isn't any penalties to the creature coming back to life on this. They're dead for a minute. You cast Revivify, you spend the diamond dust, and then they come back to life with 1 hit point. Can't do anything about missing body parts with this one. Raise Dead, it's an hour long. It's not a ritual because there's no ritual tag on this, but it takes an hour to cast it. 500 diamond dust, which is gone, and 10 days. They come back with an hit point, and they have this Resurrection, Raise Dead, Fatigue. So the -4 to attack roll, saving throws, ability checks, etc., etc. So that's that one. And there are some conditions that you can remove. Resurrection removes more of these conditions, closes all mortal body wounds, restores missing parts. Costs 1,000 gold pieces worth of diamonds. And you have resurrection sickness, and then true resurrection. You don't even need a body. The spell provides a new body. Costs 25,000 gold, and it takes an hour. And there's no resurrection fatigue. For the most part, your players are going to be using Revivify and Raise Dead. Those are the two spells that they're going to be using the most to bring PCs back to life. Now, I've seen Matt Mercer use specific rules. He's got like this journey quest that the characters have to go on to find the soul, and there's rituals, and there's ritual skill rolls, and he does a role-playing immersion on playing through how the Revivify and particularly Raise Dead and Resurrect work. Now, our guy, Gary Gygax, creator of Dungeons & Dragons, came up with some pretty cool rules for how to play and integrate raising PCs back to life within the game. And I think he understood the integral problems of it, that it does have to be very limited to maintain that level of danger. Because if the characters, there's no danger of dying, then there's no sense of danger. And I think he understood that. And I'm going to go all the way back to the Player's Handbook of 1978. And I've been rereading the Player's Handbook of 1978 just to kind of glean what he wrote and his intentions. And I came across this rule, and this is where I got the idea for this video. And that rule was the one that is here under the Constitution score. And it is highlighted here, and I will read it. It is and the way that Gary wrote was fantastic. He was very eloquent. I'm sure he had a dictionary with him, because there's a lot of words in here that he didn't have a computer back then, so he had to actually look things up in a dictionary. It is of utmost importance to understand that a character's initial Constitution score is also the maximum number of times the character can be raised from the dead / resurrected, and that each such revivification reduces the character's Constitution score by 1. Okay? That's a big one, because there is another rule that goes along with this. So every time you got brought back to life, say you had a Constitution score of 15, you got brought back to life. Your Constitution score is now a 14, and you can only be brought back to life 14 more times. So the next sentence says, although a character's Constitution can be restored to its former score, or even raised above this number by magical means, this in no way alters the initial score limitation, nor does such magical change in Constitution restore to the character additional chances for revivification. So, and he gives example, again, if you are 14... If you're a 15 and you get raised, and somehow you get your Constitution score back to a 15, you still can only be raised 14 more times. So on the 16th time, you're gone. That's with a Constitution score of 15. I think this is a great rule, and it goes very, very much along with the next rule that is in here, and that is survival of the resurrection attempt. So they had this table. He had these tables for every one of the ability scores, 3 to 18. He gave some general information. There was a hit point adjustment. That's where that came from, that we know today. It's a little bit different and a little bit more limited. And then he had these two things called System Shock Survival and Resurrection Survival. So if you had a character with a 15 Constitution, they have a 94% chance to survive that resurrection attempt. So let's look at there's a rule here for System Shock, for Resurrection Survival, that shows the percentage chance the character has of being successfully raised from the dead or resurrected by a cleric. or in this case, in 5th edition, many other things. The score of the percentile die must be equal to or less than the number shown on the table, or the character fails to be revived and is completely and totally dead forever. It's a failure, and you can never do it again. Remember that a character can never be raised from the dead or resurrected a total number of times in excess of the character's initial score. Now, if we look at this table, once again, here it is. If you got a Constitution score of 15, you have a 94% chance of surviving that resurrection attempt. So you rolled that percentage dice, and let's say you rolled a 90, which is pretty close. People are going to be sweating a little bit. Then you've survived. Your Constitution score now goes to a 14, and you can only be resurrected 14 more times. Now, if you cannot get your score back to a 15, now your resurrection survival chance has gone down to 92% instead of 94%. And so on and so forth as your Constitution score drops. In addition to your Constitution score dropping every time that you are brought back to life, your hit point adjustment is going to drop too. So let's take a look at the player's handbook. And let's take a look at the step-by-step. And I believe they have tables in here. So they have ability score summaries and ability score modifiers. Let's get rid of this. Here it is right here. Ability score modifiers. So if you have a 15, you've got a +2 modifier, which is a +2 to the number of hit points you have. If it goes down to a 14, it still stays at a +2, but if it goes down to a 13, you all of a sudden are losing hit points. So I think this is a great rule to integrate into the game, where you introduce this rule here, and you let your players know that this is the rule that you're going to play with, that every time you have a limit to the number of times that you can be brought back to life, and every time you are brought back to life, you lose a Constitution point. So there's a penalty to it. You're coming back to life, but you're coming back weaker every time. And then that you also will be integrating a resurrection survival chance, such that the characters know that there is a chance of failure for being brought back to life. And if it does fail, they are gone forever. And I think that brings back that element of danger. It brings it back into the game so the characters know that resurrection is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It is something that is only to be used as a last resort, and it is only something that can be used a limited number of times with a specific chance of failure. All right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.